My father died about 2 years ago, but one of the ways that he lives on in the lives of his children and extended family and friends are telling his stories. And I have a lifetime of stories from him that I could share with you in sermons through the years. And you'll hear a few, I know. But when it's Good Shepherd Sunday, there's one story that I've told many times through my years as a priest. It's the story of my father working as a shepherd one summer. It was the Great Depression, jobs were scarce, and summer after summer through my father's teenage years, he ended up with one lousy job after another, just to put food on the table for his household. So one summer in South Texas, the hot, dusty South Texas, he worked as a shepherd. And he did not have fond memories of being a shepherd. He was not the good shepherd, probably. He talked about how dusty and dry it was. He talked about how uncooperative and stubborn the sheep could be, that they'd wander off all over the place. He was very, actually, insulting towards sheep. He would talk about how they wouldn't even have a sense to eat right. And so part of his job as a 15-year-old was trying to get sheep to eat right. He could go on and on and on. And so for years, I told sermon stories about how we romanticize sheep. We hear this story about the Good Shepherd. We hear about how we're sheep. And we think we're cute and fuzzy, but in fact, we're stubborn and not very bright and uncooperative with the Good Shepherd. Well, as in many lives, there's a punchline. And for me, it took place in about the year 2000 when Kathy Gray, my wife, who's also a priest, when she and I started dating. And one of the stories she told was about her favorite animal in her life ever, a sheep. The sheep was named Barkley. And when Kathy was actually around the same age as my father had been, Barkley was her responsibility. She grew up as a farm girl. And in her case, Barkley was sweet. The sheep was nice. It was a part of her life. They could take walks together. Of course, Kathy fed it very carefully, or him, actually. It's not just an it. That Barkley and she could take walks. They could sit on the grass as Kathy sat under the trees and read. Barkley would curl up there. That Barkley was happy to be washed and cared for. That it was just simply wonderful being Barkley. It was wonderful being a shepherd for Kathy, and that one of the things that, in fact, she evaluated property by as we thought about where to live when we moved to Indiana was whether or not she could have 3 sheep or not. We decided to set that goal aside when we bought our house. So I had these 2 contrasting views from 2 people I loved and respected deeply. And as you may know, in the Episcopal Church, we're very happy holding contrasting views, holding them at the same time, because often it's in that action of trying to keep these 2 contrasting views together that we learn the wisdom of God. And I think this is one of those cases, because one of the things I didn't tell you about Barkley the sheep was that Barkley was an orphan. One of the things that Kathy liked to do when she was a youngster was to watch the adjoining field when the Basque shepherd came in with a flock every year. That people would rent out that field, and the Basque shepherd would come, and the sheep would live there for a while, and then when all of the nutrition was taken, the flock would move on. So year after year, Kathy would watch the Basque shepherd and his flock. One year, the Basque shepherd came over to Kathy with a newborn lamb in his hands and said, "This is for you." And Kathy, of course, was very moved and thought it was great and wonderful. And the shepherd, who was very to the point, said, "If you don't take it, it will die." Because what happens with sheep is if they have twins, they will choose which one is the strongest and ignore the other. All the milk and caring will go to the stronger one, the survival of the fittest. And so one of the things shepherds have to do when there are twins born is find another sheep or a human to take care of the orphan. Well, of course, Kathy went home with his sheep, and there was no way she was going to give it up. And that's how Barkley came into her life. You see, I think all of those pieces come together into how we are called to live as Christians. That there are times when we are orphans. There are times when we feel alone, when we feel uncared for. Even as the Good Shepherd, even as Jesus Christ has promised to care for us, as we heard in this morning's gospel and so many other places in the scriptures. But in our day-to-day lives, sometimes that's hard to know. It's hard to feel. That's hard to really believe is happening. And so what all of us are called to do as Christians is to be a good shepherd to one another, to look for the people who are having an orphan moment, or week, or year, or life, and be a good shepherd to them. Be Kathy with Barkley. Care for those people, because they need to know from a human being that they're not alone. It won't be enough always to have us intellectual or even heart knowledge that God is caring for us. Instead, we do need to have people around us caring for us. And that's one of the great things about being part of a congregation like Holy Family, is that I can promise you, if today is an orphan day for you, there are people around you right now who are willing to be a good shepherd for you. Or if 2 weeks from now, or 2 years from now, or 2 decades from now, there are people at Holy Family who will do that. But part of being a Christian is not saving that kind of love just for people who go to our church or are part of our family or our circle of friends. Instead, we are called to have that kind of love for the whole wide world. Usually, it's more restricted than that. Usually, it'll just be people around us, people we've come across, who are having an orphan day, who are having an orphan moment, who are having an orphan life, and need that kind of love. You see, for me, it's in hearing the story of one sheep that transformed my view of all sheep. I can no longer drive by a flock of sheep and think about my dad's words without hearing about the corrective of Barkley, of what that one individual sheep is like. And that's why we try to support our youth working on mission trips. It's that same dynamic. They get to know 1, 2, 3, a dozen people, and their whole life changes because they see the whole world differently. They see the human race differently. And we are called to do the same kind of things as adults, to seek out people who change how we see the world, how we see people. To find the Barkleys who need love. Find the Barkleys who need our attention. Find the Barkleys who are otherwise alone. And in that encounter, God will bless us in a way that will shift how we see the whole human race and how we see ourselves. Because suddenly, how God is and who God is made real in that interaction between ourselves and a person who a little while before might have been a stranger, but now is someone who we're sharing God's love, them giving to us and us giving to them. And of course, that's what's so true, is that all of us will be at times orphans. All of us at times will be in need of some Barkley attention, where we need good shepherds. So we can't just see ourselves as giving to others. We also have to be prepared to receive, and sometimes that's harder. So as we walk through our lives, as Christians, as we walk through our lives as family members, as we walk through our lives as friends, as we walk through our lives as people of Holy Family, we have to be ready to give and to receive, to be the good shepherd and to be a sheep, sometimes dirty and uncooperative, sometimes sweet and hand-fed, but to be able to love and be loved will help us become full human beings and full Christians, more able to love because we receive love, more able to be the good shepherd for the world around us, which needs such people so desperately. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.